All right, so we're setting up our website designs in Photoshop. And I am actually going to show you Photoshop and Illustrator because honestly, you could use either. But if you go to File, New, we're going to go over to Web, and you're going to click Web Large. And that should set you up with the same exact specs that I had in the PowerPoint. Double check to make sure. What we care about is the width, right? Because this 1920 here is how wide the average wider screen monitor is. So this one is the most common, but for your portfolio, I want these to be a little bit bigger, so we're gonna go with this one. So go ahead and hit create, and that will pop you into your first artboard. Now, when I said use multiple artboards, if you have a website that is really evenly divided in chunks, so let's say you chose a very geometric format and you have one chunk, two chunk, then it's easier, in my opinion, to kind of space it out. But we can also just use one artboard and extend the length of it. So if we go to here, we can take this long ways as far as we want, and we'll be able to format it to print in our 11 by 17s later. So let's go with that. And I, of course, don't have my own wireframe and design created, so we're gonna just find one online somewhere. We'll go with that one, nice and easy. So you don't have to work right on top of your wireframe. You can just, oops, that is not the marquee I want. You don't have to work right on top of it. I'm going to because I'm trying to make this demo kind of quick and not take like 3 hours while I sit and design the whole project, but I can already tell probably going to end up going a bit longer, but we'll leave it there for now. Beautiful HD image, right? So if you select the artboard itself, you'll be able to modify the size of it. Okay. So we're just using this as a baseline for this demonstration. So what is the content that I need to put into here? I went ahead, and it looks like I closed it down. Let's open that up real quick. I just took all the information from that CSS Zen Garden website and popped it into a Word doc so you guys can grab it easier. I know that for some reason, this website just doesn't work correctly from tech. It works fine from anywhere else. But this is everything, all the content that needs to be on there. So from here, using your wireframe, you're just going to figure out where you want to put everything. So I would say in this document, obviously the title is going to be the most important thing, right? The explanation, so this part right here, should be second in your visual hierarchy. And in my opinion, most people are probably not going to sit and read all of these. I would love for you guys to. It's interesting, but you don't have to. But this part right here are the websites that other people designed. I want these to be noticeable, right? These shouldn't be at the very bottom of your visual hierarchy. These, however, these buttons can be, and I would recommend putting these in your footer. They're in your footer in your HTML, so to try to get them anywhere else would be quite the feat with just CSS. So this is at the bottom. This is at the bottom. I'm going to take this whole thing here and pop it up to the top just so we remember that this should be up high. Okay, so if we look at this, we'll go to the CSS Zen Garden site real quick. And you can see this right here is right there. This tab right here that takes you to the designs is what's right here. And then that highlighted list is these, all of our body paragraphs. Those are the 5 buttons in your footer. And then these things right here are at the bottom. And by the way, in the other demo, when I was talking about getting the CSS of these specific designs, this is where you get it. So if you just download this one, it's going to get you that same template that everybody has in class. if you go through these and let's say you really like the format of this one and you just want to be able to kind of pop in your own images and illustrations, you could go ahead and download this CSS and work from there. I am okay with you guys using these as templates. I'll be able to tell if one is way too similar. Like if you turn this in and it's just purple instead of tan, I'm gonna know that you maybe didn't do much to it. But once you get into Photoshop, you're just going to use your basic tools to lay out any elements you want. So I don't have a specific idea for the theme. I know some of you are doing like, I think there was a cave and some fruit stuff, some oceans. It doesn't have to be super illustrative, but it can be. It can be super basic too. And when you remember, we looked at some of those website designs that were very simple and nice and just had some really nice imagery or photography, and that's kind of spoke for itself. You can do that. You can keep this super simple. So maybe we will go, Pexels is my favorite for free HD stock photos. So let's say we'll do a garden themed, and we'll just find a nice horizontal image. We'll just go with this one. I don't want to waste too much time. Go ahead and download it. And then I will pop this into my document. There we go. So maybe this is my whole opening page. So when you open the website, before you scroll down, this is all you see. But that's pretty bright. If I try to put text over this, we'll do the title. So if I want some white text on this, it's not going to show up super well, even if I use a really thick font. Why is it on top of itself? What kind of type settings do I have going on here? So if you open character and paragraph, so those are in your window panel. Anything you need is going to be somewhere in here. Paragraph is down here as well, but we already have it open. This is where you'll get all of your type settings. So for this, for some reason, my line spacing is super close together. Let's keep taking it up, I guess. Okay. I'm happy with that. Let's center it. Can we read that? So even if we make it white, it's still not super easy to see. So maybe what we want to do is add some kind of black gradient, or maybe we want to just lower the brightness on this. So I could click this, I could add an adjustment layer. We'll do brightness and contrast. We'll hit this thing right here, which will link it down to just this one below it. And then maybe I'll just take this brightness down a bit. So I can see that quite a bit easier now. I could even go over here. I know drop shadows are controversial, but sometimes you can use them nicely, right? You just gotta not be heavy-handed with them. So that's readable to me now. What's the next piece of content we need? The beauty of design. So we can just go right back in. We'll make another text box and make sure you're using guides. I'm trying to go quick with this, but you should be centering anything that's supposed to be centered. You should have some kind of margins made that are even to make sure that your alignments are nice, right? If you're gonna have good alignments anywhere, it should be on a website, because if you go on a website and everything is just randomly scattered everywhere, you know, those are the ones that ended up on our bad list a couple weeks ago in class. So we will go ahead, I think I'm gonna align it from the second letter on each side. And what was it? The beauty of CSS design. I can't see anything I'm typing, so if there's typos, don't talk about it. Okay, yeah, we're gonna do that. The beauty of CSS design. All right, and I don't like that font as a subtitle. It's too heavy. So we'll go find a different one that is still a little bit heavier weight, but a bit more simple. So maybe we'll go with this one here. Berlin Sans. I don't like that either. So this is one of those things that will eat up your time, type selections, color selections, but once you pick a couple, just stay consistent with it and it'll be easy. Yeah, we'll go with that. Check for readability. I think I'm going to go ahead and pop these up a little bit. I want it to sit there on that bench. Yeah, I like that. And then maybe we'll go ahead and take that same effect so you can grab it and you can hold Option and drag it over to the other one, and now that's got that same drop shadow. So I think that is readable. It's pretty bland, but it's there. That is our first piece of content. So what you can do as you go and fill this out is cross it out if you want to. Just to keep track. You know what? I didn't add this view designs in, so I'll take that out. So let's say you don't want to go the photography, clean, simple route and you want to do something really illustrative. We can do the project in Illustrator as well. Illustrator is just as adept for web design as Photoshop is. So it's the same exact process. File new, web large. You have all the same settings, hit create. And then from there, maybe I want a footer that looks like, off the top of my head, all I can think of is rocks. So let's make rocks. Beautiful footer. So make sure you're giving yourself enough space to put things in. But let's say this is my footer and I want to export this. You need to make sure that it is going to fit in your document. So you can't just export it to the artboard. You want to make sure it's got clean edges. If I wanted to, I could design my entire website in Illustrator. So I could make this way taller. I could put everything in here, right? Or you could just export a singular thing from there. So as long as it's got the same width, it'll all work together. So let's take this into the other one. I can go to File, Export, Export As, and I want this to be a PNG, so it's transparent. So we'll call it rock footer. And I'm just gonna throw this on my desktop so I don't lose it for now. We don't need it to be that high. We're going for 72. Hit OK, and then we'll pop back into Photoshop and we should be able to just place that in here and it'll work just the same as an image. And there we go. I can move that up. So that's the way you can kind of make a hybrid and combine them together. You can do everything with vector illustrations. You can do everything with photography and really clean, simple negative space, right? So I have this one image here. Maybe I put that little thing that says view all designs up here somewhere. So I can take this same font, hold Alt or Option, and we'll drag it up here, and we'll just say remember, you should be lining things up with guides and not just eyeballing it. So what do we think about our visual hierarchy here? I think this is way too big. If this is supposed to be the third thing we see, it is competing. It's too big in the corner. So we can make that half the size and it'll still function. This one is probably one of the lesser important things we have on the screen. So that looks a lot better to me. I'm happy with that. From here, I would just go in. I've got this to think about, but other than that, all these body paragraphs, pick a format and just kind of repeat it. Just make sure that not everything is to one side. So either stagger them or maybe have 2 here, 1 in the middle, 2 here, some kind of balance so that it doesn't feel too heavy on one side. And remember, I don't know if you guys learned this in typography, but the human eye does not like to read past a certain length. So if you're going to have paragraphs in here, my rule of thumb is to try not to make it go too far over the center line of the website. You'll see that broken sometime, but for the most part, you don't want text that goes across your entire screen because it's just fatiguing for the eye to read. So if we go to this one, you'll notice that it has a break. It all has the same break. There's no text on here that goes all the way across the whole thing. And he has some pretty big margins on here. So there's plenty of breathing room between all these elements. Same margins on here. This is padding on these elements that makes them push from the boundary. And if we look at some of these other ones, there's even more negative space, right? So that none of these have super long text. These are broken up into paragraphs. They're not just all the way across. So it's a good rule of thumb in anything you're doing, publication, posters, but especially web design where people may be going to do a lot of reading on a website. Don't make your paragraphs too long. So I have my Illustrator version. I have my Photoshop version. You are just slowly going along and putting in information. For people who are unfamiliar with Photoshop and feel like they didn't get what they need to do this project, you're just going to have to ask a lot of questions for this one because I can't introduce you to the whole program right away. I can tell you that the main tools you will use for this is your type tool, your paragraph and character windows, your properties panel, of course your layers, and then you could play around with shapes in here, the rectangle, ellipse, polygon, your line tools. You can create vector shapes in Photoshop. Alright, the free version of Bandicam cut me off a bit, but just to finish what I was explaining, Photoshop is not made to create vector images. It is capable of it, but it is a lot easier to do it in Illustrator. So if you're trying to do something illustrative, do it there and pop it into Photoshop. As far as this project goes, I really encourage you guys to ask questions and call me over if there's something you're trying to do that you can't get working. I'm teaching Photoshop to the morning kids right now, so it's very, present. I can help you with it. I just can't teach you how to use the whole program right now without eating up too much of your time. So just remember, you want a lot of negative space. You want this to be simple and easy. You want to think about your web flow and how the viewer's eye is moving through this information. So the rule of thumb, unless you have a website that is just a landing page and there's no scrolling available, then most websites have a top-down orientation. So whatever page you start on, as you scroll down, the things that are further down the page are going to be lower in your hierarchy, even if they're huge and bright red, because you just don't see them right away. So if you have important elements like your title, or those list of websites, or the little intro paragraph that says the links to the HTML and CSS, those things should be up at the top, like objectively for this project. The list of websites could be on the side, but if you put it too far down, it's just going to be hard to notice. Have fun with these. Do whatever you want your portfolio to look like. So if you really like illustrating and you want to show that you're capable of doing things like that, then make this super illustrative. You can do all sorts of different ideas, landscapes, anything that involves layering. You could do like different layers of the earth or snow, canyons. Something that lets you break it up into segments will be easy. But have fun with it and ask questions.